could we try with a plot?
Right. One of my worst memories of being a parent was when my kid was in that early reading phase and wanted to read me a book, and it was Go Dog Go. Do you know how hard it is for me to sit still? And it was Go Dog Go at a rate of 5 minutes a page.
Raising a well-behaved child in this world requires strict discipline and punishment. Today, we will look...
No, we will not.
Hello and welcome to Childproof. I'm Gwenna Lathland.
And I'm Tori Phantom. Today's episode goes out to every parent who read every book like it was a full cast production.
And to every parent who is or was very excited for their kids to take over reading duty.
Yep. Today, we are talking about books. But first, let's start the timer. So this episode is prompted by an email we got. And again, we love hearing from you. So please email us childproofmail@gmail.com. And this email comes from Renee, who says, "Hello, Tori and Gwenna. Love having the podcast back, and it's even better now getting to have your faces on the television while listening." We're waving. That's why there was just an awkward pause there for anyone who's just listening. Back to the email. I wanted to request a segment or episode in honor of National Reading Month. I'd love to hear what you're reading and what your kids are loving to read or tolerating, depending on their interests.
Most realistic little aside there.
Yeah. As a side to this, if Tori could share some recommendations on starters for history, that would be amazing, because now you've got me curious with all your fun facts. Thanks for considering and sharing yourselves with the world. Thank you for giving me another reason to talk about history.
So we're gonna talk about books. We're gonna talk about how we approach reading with our kiddos, and we're gonna talk about how we read. I am an avid reader and a fast reader. Tori is an avid reader and a not at all fast reader.
I am a fast reader. It's not that I don't read fast. My thing is that I am reading like 8 books at a time.
Yeah.
So I finish a bunch at once, but it's because I'm alternating between them. It seems like I am reading at a snail's pace, when in reality, I just keep switching which book I'm reading.
I read in 3 different versions. So I typically have 3 books going at a time, because I've got an audiobook, which is normally a fiction book, typically a romantasy book, because it's the kind of book that I can check out from reality most easily, because I mean, it's nothing like reality most of the time.
Yeah.
It's a sci-fi or it's a fantasy. There's dragons or space lasers. So that is my departure. So it feels less shitty when I'm doing laundry or dishes or something.
Right.
I'll listen to the audio. And then I've got my ebook, which is most often a nonfiction. And that is an accident. I think because for nonfictions, I'm more hesitant to commit on buying the book. Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm still buying it an ebook, but I'm buying an ebook. It's cheaper than a physical copy.
Yeah.
And then I've got a physical book, which is the least read version of reading.
Yeah, I think I started reading less of the physical books when I started making the history cards.
Yeah.
Because the pickup line was my reading time, but now it's my art time. And unfortunately, there are not enough and too many hours in every single day. So what I do, I read a lot of nonfiction. I read mostly nonfiction. I love reading psychology books, history books, memoirs, stuff like that. And so if I am reading a nonfiction book that I want to be talking about, I will get the audiobook and the digital copy, because because I listen to the books a lot when I am, at my kids' gymnastics or like sports practice that's starting up again soon. So I will listen while I'm watching them. And what I do is, because if you hit the bookmark on the audiobook, that bookmark transfers over to the ebook. And so then when I want to get my references, it's there. And then if I really like a book, I will also get the physical copy of it. So like the Samuel Adams biography that I read, I have that as an ebook,
all 3 forms,
audiobook, and a physical book.
I do, when I listen to an audiobook, if I really love it, I call them my book trophies. It's a very common practice among audiobook readers. Once I read a book, if I really, really love it, I will buy the physical copy for two reasons. First, I want to have the physical copy. And I love that we are reading in the year 2025, where now it's not just physical copies, but they're fucking beautiful. They've got sprayed edges, custom art, like cover art is this massively important part of what makes a book, the experience that it is. I love it. So
I
will
know.
buy
That's
book
why I
trophies.
loved your book so much, TikTok sensation.
God, I hate that label. I hate that label. And come April, we probably won't even have TikTok anymore. So,
It's a
anyway, if it ever
conversation
gets
for
a
another
reprint,
day.
it says New York Times bestseller now, but I don't think I'm ever going to sell out to require a reprint.
So everyone go buy Gwenna's book. But no, so I typically am reading a whole bunch of books at the same time, but I do read fiction sometimes, and it's usually because someone has talked about it in a way that seems really interesting. Like the most recent fiction book I read was called John Dies at the End.
Yeah.
And it is my brother's favorite book, and he'd been recommending it to me for 10 years. So if you ever recommend something to me, that's about how long it takes for me to get to it. And I loved that book. Now I know there's a sequel. Have I read that? No, probably won't. But I did really enjoy that book, and it was so far out of the realm of anything I would normally read. That is a horror comedy book of all things. And it was very good, but I don't know. I just love learning. I've always loved learning. And so I tend to gravitate towards things that are interesting to me in a way that I learn more.
I went through a period. So I am one of those where I read a bunch when I was a kid. I was hyperlexic and learned to read by the time I was 4, and I did not stop reading until I was about 14, 15 years old. And then sort of life hit and puberty hit, and there just wasn't time for books in my world. Was there actually time for books? Yes. Did I believe that? No.
I had a bad home life and no friends. I'd read more and more.
I stopped reading for a while in my teens. I sort of picked it up again in my 20s, but my 20s, if you've listened to my online content, my 20s were rough. All right. There were some rough patches happening in my 20s. I tried to find refuge in books, but I picked the wrong ones because I'd gotten this notion in my head, oh, well, I'm an adult. I can only read adult books. And so I'm trying to read things like Tolstoy and Austen in the middle of a very crisis-ridden moment in my life. And I was like, ugh. Adult reading is boring.
I still enjoy some young adult novels. Like I read Turtles All the Way Down last year. Yeah. John Green's books. I love them. See, my thing is when even in hard times in my life, I'm still gravitating towards books that are very serious. Because for me, I have always found the solidarity I don't have in my regular friendships and in my relationships through books, right?
Yeah.
Because there's some things that I've been through.
Trauma dump.
And they're hard to talk about, or people don't understand them, or when you try to talk about these things, you get hit with pity, and that's a very uncomfortable thing where you don't want the pity. You just want to be able to talk about it, right? And so for me, finding that kind of relatability through the books it's been a great coping mechanism.
I finally got to a point sometime in my 30s where I was like, you know what? I'm allowed to dress however I want. I'm allowed to do whatever I want to my hair. I can exercise free will, and I can read books that other people might find silly. So I didn't read the Aragon series, and I'm 100% sure that's not its name, but it was a book about dragons by
I read
Christopher
that in
Bailey.
high school. Yeah.
I didn't read it until I was an adult because at the time that it came out, I was just a little older than YA books. And I thought, well, I can't read them because they are not for me. False.
Being in your 30s is so comforting, isn't it?
It is. It is. And so that's when I started, you know what? I'm reading what I feel like reading. And so sometimes I read very, very serious books. Sometimes I read very, very thinky thought books, very elevated ideas, either fiction or nonfiction. And other times I'm reading fucking dragons and fairies. Fucking.
I've never been a huge fantasy person, but there are certain books that have hit with me.
But keep in mind, I do not only read romantasy, but I read a lot of romantasy.
Do you reread books?
I didn't used to. Recently, I've discovered, yes, I do reread books. Like within the last year, I started rereading books.
So there is, because again, I read such a wide variety of books, but there are some young adult novels that I really enjoy, and I reread The Perks of Being a Wallflower every few years. It is an incredible book, and every time I read it, I pull something else out of it, depending on the phase of life I'm in and how old I am. And I think that's kind of a fun thing to do, is when you're an adult, to revisit some of your favorite books from when you were a teenager or when you were going
some of them
through some
hold
hard
up,
time.
some of them don't. I went back to reread Boxcar Children, which carried me through my childhood.
Same.
I read so much Boxcar Children.
That's why we're friends.
Which how weird that a rather traumatic childhood, we would be drawn to books about children who strayed away from their families and took care of themselves.
Yeah. You know, funny story in that exact sentiment. I couldn't find that word. Wow, that took me a minute. When I was a kid, one of my favorite books of all time was from the Mixed Up Files of Miss Basil E. Frankweiler. Have you read that book?
No.
That book is about two kids who are mad at their parents, and so they stow away on the school bus, and then when they get to the bus lot, they sneak off and they go to the museum, and they decide to live in the museum, and to get money to get snacks from like the vending, they raid the fountain at night. Like, these are all these things they do, right? I loved this book. Okay. So when my eldest kid had gotten to an age where they could read it, I was like, I am gifting you this book. And there were a few chapters in it. They look at me and they're like, I don't know how I feel about this book. I kind of like it, but I kind of don't. And I was like, why? Like, what are your thoughts? And they're like, I just really don't understand why kids would want to run away from home. And then I cried.
You want to stay home?
You love me?
I'm doing it, y'all.
Yeah.
So as far as thus far, I have not had the opportunity to pick up my favorite books and hand them to my one and only complete reader. My littles can read, but we're still slogging through. We've gotten past CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant. We're now into CVCE. We're learning more of the phonics rules. Like, we can read, yes, but it takes a very long time, and we kind of have to do the read the page twice.
My least
we
favorite
sort of
part of
slog
reading.
through the words, and then we have to go back and decide what they actually meant. Because now that we can say them, we can find the meaning of what's actually happening in the story.
Because there's a
So it's
difference
very
between
long
reading and
process.
comprehending.
Right. Like, so my oldest, however, is not and has never been a reader. And that's not entirely her fault. She got caught in my particular state. We had a very rough patch where we were arguing about Common Core curriculum. And for a brief period, when my daughter was in kindergarten, first, second, and third grade, so those magical windows where we're learning the art and science of reading and comprehension, my daughter was not being taught phonics. She was being taught rote memorization. And it really, really fucked with her. Now, she has since learned phonics, but this was also in a time where I was not in a place. I am not a good teacher mom. So any work I would try to do with her about phonics, she would wall up and be like, no, you cannot be right. No, CH says ch, ch, SH says sh, sh. That's all I'm trying to get you to go. No, mom. Okay. So we were able to find some people to help her. She did end up in reading lab. It wasn't her fault that she struggled. It was the school system and the fact that our dynamic has never really opened itself up to being a teacher-mom relationship. It's just not how our relationship is successful. Our relationship is incredibly successful, but not if I'm trying to teach her something. Nope.
Yeah. That's my eldest was an early reader. All of mine have been very, very early readers. And that's not a brag. I think that's important to note, because I think sometimes it can come off as like braggy. Like my kids were early readers. Like they just started reading early.
Right.
That's just it makes no difference long term.
Hyperlexia.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Yeah.
It's not it's not a big thing. It's just a thing that happens.
Exactly. And my eldest has always cracked me up with it because I want to say they could read books independently in kindergarten. And those early chapter books, the subject matter was incredibly boring to them.
Yeah.
They could read, they wanted to read. They didn't want to read the books that were appropriate on that level.
Hang on. I need to rant about this for a sec. Because I'm doing so very carefully.
Okay.
I hate dumb children's books.
Oh,
now,
me too.
There is a difference between dumb and books that are designed with a very educational purpose of working through phonics, vocabulary exposure. Yes, I understand that sometimes the see, bill, will. I know those don't have any sort of story in them. It's just, education disguised as a children's book. I understand. But then, and all of you know them, there are books that they simply did not fucking try. The art is awful. The story is ridiculous. And even the 5-6-year-olds who are supposed to be reading this book go, well, just don't open the jar and then you won't have bugs on the bus, you dumbass. Like, I cannot stand some of these really dumb books. Again, I know a lot of them serve a purpose. They're to teach phonics. I get it. But could we try with a plot?
Right. No, I hear you. That is, I think, one of my worst memories of being a parent was when my kid was in that early reading phase and wanted to read me a book, and it was Go Dog Go. Do you know how hard it is for me to sit still? And it was Go Dog Go at a rate of 5 minutes a page.
Yeah.
Can we just burn this book?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I cannot stand. Some of them are silly and fun, and no, they don't really tell a story, but they are entertaining to read, or they come with really good art.
Yeah, my kid is really into this series called Pizza and Taco, and it's there's no depth to it, but it's so fun for her to read.
I'm not asking for groundbreaking literature. I'm asking for things that parents can survive.
I'm asking for the books that I don't have to skip some pages in when I'm reading it, because I
also, if this book is for first graders, we don't need to have more than like 20 words on a page. If I turn the page and it is an entire text block and the illustration is on the other page, we are summarizing that page. Mom, that's not what the word says. Shut it.
Then you read it.
Right.
We have good books.
Right. But that being said, I have no banned books except running along reading level lines.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that books can be a great way to challenge the critical thinking in our children as well, and to teach them about new things and things that might be an uncomfortable conversation for us to approach. I think books are a great way to navigate that.
I use the reading level less as a, do you physically have the ability to read that? Because that is a very subjective thing. You had a 5-year-old reading at a 3rd grade level. They could comprehend the words on the page the same as a 3rd grader, but that doesn't mean that they were ready to read 3rd grade level books.
Right. And part of that too is the content of the book, right?
Yes. So I use reading level as a, I'm not going to say no. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'll say no just because you're in 1st grade and want to read a 3rd grade book. I'm just going to skim it real quick and be like, yeah, totally approved. Have fun. But if you come to me with a 6th grade book, I'm probably going to say, I don't think our brains are ready for all this. Let's wait till a little closer to 6th grade and then we can try this one, because there's some scary stuff or there's some hard stuff that your brain's not ready to try to process.
And I think part of it as well is that when they're reading books at a higher level, even if they are have the ability to read it, is if it is too challenging, if there are too many words that are challenging, that can be really discouraging and impact their self-esteem. Now they don't want to read because, well, I couldn't. And so it's kind of that balance. But so here's the thing that I did with my eldest, who wanted to read, but found the books that were in their level boring. I got out my old Game Boy Color that I still have, 1996, and I put Pokemon Red in it. And I said, have fun, because you have to read to play that
There's
game.
a ton of reading in
There
the game.
is
Yeah.
so much reading in that game. And
We have been using
work great.
We've been using captions for that same thing. So now shows are watched on pause a lot.
Now you're muting your shows. Now you have the captions on. I can't hear my TV if I don't have the captions on.
I need to specify. I was born deaf. I've been using captions on the television since I was
Oh, but now
born.
you're using it in the kid shows too.
Now I'm
Okay.
using it on the kid shows. Well, I mean, they've always been on, but now what we're doing is we'll get to a scene and I'll read it real quick and be like, those words all are within your, can you read that caption, buddy? And so now shows are watched in 30-second increments and then pause, and then they sort of read the.
You know what, Gwenna? Usually you are ahead of me on parenting things, but because your littles are early readers,
Yes.
and because of where technology was when Abby started reading, you have yet to get to the conversation where you have to talk to your kids about boundaries and privacy because they're trying to read all your text over your shoulder.
That's true. I do. We are just now entering that. Like literally in the last couple weeks, my son will wander over and we've had, excuse me, buddy, whose phone screen is this?
Stop screen
Back it up.
peeking. Yeah, stop.
There's nothing on here that they shouldn't see necessarily,
Right.
but it's just, hey, no, personal space, tech respect,
Yes.
tech respect.
Yes, and it's a confidentiality thing. Like, this isn't a conversation for you. Though I have done it sometimes, especially with my eldest, who is like the nuance of the humor. If I catch them behind me trying to read my text and say I'm like texting my brother, or even like you, I'll just, this kid is a butthead.
Yeah.
And they're so nosy, right? And then my kid's like, oh, that fake, the fake.
Fake indignation.
Yes, I can't find any word today. So glad we're
It's 'cause you
talking
talk
about
for a
reading.
living.
Yeah, and okay, so I think this is a thing that tells people who read more or talk to people more, because this is a thing that I run into sometimes because I read a lot. And if it's not an audiobook, right? If it's the physical, like the text, there are so many words that I know exactly what they mean. I know how to spell them, but I'm unsure of the pronunciation. So now I find myself like Googling this word pronunciation so that I don't. Yeah, that's a thing that I do.
Yeah, there's Quagmire was one of the ones that I did not know how to pronounce because I had only ever read the word, and in my head it was Quagmire. I don't know why I decided Quagmire was how you should say Quagmire. Quagmire honestly makes way more sense, but Quagmire is how it was. And that was specifically, I bring up that very obscure word because the very first time I ever had the encounter of, I've only ever read this book and read this word and don't know how to say it, is because I said Quagmire in front of other people.
Yeah.
And they're like, hang on, what? Quagmire.
I just kind of preface it. If I can't Google the pronunciation, I'll just say like, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right. I've only read the word, but I promise I know what it means. So I'm going to I'm going to use it appropriately.
Yeah.
And
now here's the other thing that I did just have the tail end of with Abby and with the littles has continued. Other books I hate. Not only do I hate books that don't tell a story and are just time wasters for little kids, also books that do stuff. I do not need my children's books to light up. I do not need my children's books to make noise. I do recognize there's a very specific subset where when you're reading the book and there's a little picture and then you push it and it makes like a sparkle princess sound or like a roaring dinosaur sound.
Yeah.
Those are okay. But anything beyond
or the ones
that,
with the baby books with the textures on them are good.
yes.
Those are, yes.
Infant books follow different rules.
Yeah, that's a
because
different category.
That's a completely different category. And also, I am at the age with my kids where I currently hate pop-up books. I hate them
I love
because they're
pop-up
not
books.
going to survive.
No,
Only-
they don't survive, but I still love them.
I like them. I will like them again. I recognize somewhere around 8, 9, they're still cool, but the kids have enough physical control and fine motor skill to not yeet.
You know, I always get them as the holiday books because then they're only pulling them out a few times a year and then they last longer.
I need to start doing that. There is a book, One Red Dot. It's amazing. That thing is a piece of art. We have that, and I've protected it.
Yeah. So do you have favorite children's books to read to your kids? Because my all-time favorite is The Book with No Pictures, B.J. Novak.
I love B.J. Novak. I love everything that B.J. Novak does.
Have you read The Book with No Pictures?
I think we have. So I have to admit, we do not keep children's books in the house. So I don't always remember all of the books. We're library users almost exclusively for kids' books because at this age, we're powering through reading stages so quickly.
And your kids have such an age gap. There was no purpose in holding on to them.
There was no purpose in saving. Yeah. By the time the eldest outgrew them, I didn't think we were going to have any more kids, so they got donated.
Yeah, we go through all of the kids, and then when my littlest is done with it, we donate them. Yeah. And but the Book with No Pictures, we actually just gifted a copy of that to my littlest teacher because she had never heard of the book, and my littlest read it to the class and read it to her, and she loved it so much. And I was like, "You're getting your own copy," and so that one is fun.
I love BJ Novak. Also he's the one with the little elephants and the cat. Yeah.
No,
I forget which one it is. No, is it? Am I thinking the wrong one?
BJ Novak is Ryan on The Office, and he wrote that one. And
okay,
yes, I know what books you're talking about. Those ones are fun too. And then we really there's this book that I found that I really love, and it's Don't Lick This Book, and it is at a child's level explaining germ theory. Yeah, and
Mo Willems. That's who I was thinking of.
So wild you just said that because my littlest is currently obsessed with Mo Willems. There's an app for the birds, the pigeon. You can create your own pigeon now, and it's this whole thing.
We're in a book. That was our first exposure to.
Yeah, it's great stuff. So there's a lot of kids' books I love. One of the books types that I hate because I love going to the book fair with my kids. Absolutely love going to the book fair. I didn't get much ever at a book fair when I was a kid. And now I'm like, I get to support the school and go to a book fair. Heck yeah. And so we go to the book fairs, and my most detested thing at a book fair is exactly what you're talking about. Crappy book, no plot, but it has like a necklace. Yes. And so your kid wants it. And then you go to read the book with your kid, and you're like, well, this is somehow problematic. I don't know how you got this theme in here. I don't like this.
Kid, it's capitalism.
This isn't a good book. But so I know you said Abby has never been a big reader. So
never been a big. Now I do need to clarify. She is now a perfectly good reader. She does read for pleasure, but she's also in that age where there's so many other things to do.
Yeah, at that age, you're either still a huge bookworm or you've
wandered off.
Yeah, it goes in the back burner.
I at this age had also wandered off from books. I came back. I'm unconcerned.
Right.
She'll find her hobbies as she ages.
I guess my question is, did she ever have a book series she was in love with?
So she did. She experienced a couple series, but again, because there was sort of a gap in her reading education, it took her a little ways to catch up. She sort of missed a huge chunk of her 16, 17, 18-year-old generation, especially in Oklahoma and southern states where we were really wrapped up in curriculum bullshit. She did read. Brace yourselves. Okay, I recognize what it is and what I'm about to say. It was a different time. We didn't know everything that we know now. She did enjoy Harry Potter. We were reading Harry Potter in a time before J.K. Rowling opened her fucking mouth. So she did enjoy Harry Potter. She also now doesn't care what house she's in. She's not.
I feel like that is a very millennial thing.
It is a very millennial thing. I was once upon a time, and I have to admit, I still love Harry Potter, but I recognize that at this point, I can no longer separate that art from the artist.
Yeah.
That
you can't
artist
support
has
that
dug
anymore.
so hard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I never liked Harry Potter.
Right.
I tried to read it as a kid. Wasn't for me. And then I tried to
the
watch the
other
movies.
series
There was a bunch of spiders. I was like, no.
The other series that she really loved, Tori, you're going to enjoy this. Guess. what other series Abby really got into.
I'm going to enjoy this.
Yes.
I've never had a thought in my head now that you told me to guess something. Can I have a hint?
Rats.
Rats. There's a rat.
Twilight. She really loved Twilight.
I just did not make that jump at all. Okay.
Ratties.
You told me to guess, and my brain was like, no, you've never had a thought before. Sorry.
Yeah, she really liked Twilight, and that was about the only series that she got into. What about your kids? I know your kids had way more series.
I'd say I got my kid into Twilight, and I felt like the best parent ever because my kid is reading Twilight, and then we watched Twilight, and all they did was point out all the red flags.
Yes,
and
no,
I was like, I ate this up. I ate this up as a teenager, and you're like,
I didn't see it at all, and you're like, gee, Edward's super controlling in like not an okay way, not like a consent way. This feels like a violation of consent. Abby,
yeah, that was my kid, and I quote, "Oh, he's watching you sleep, and that, my friends, is called stalking." But Twilight is the newest series we've tried. Yeah. So that is, and we're not done with it yet. We haven't touched Breaking Dawn. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think we kind of got through Eclipse, and I think it was just a little too much. Because I think that's the thing when we're sharing series with our kids. There is that kind of, we had to wait for the next book, which meant that we gained more maturity.
Right.
And so that's fine. But we've had Warrior Cats, which I have tried to read, but it's just so, it's not interesting to me, but I still know everything about it. Like I know about Jay Feather. Okay.
We did have a Minecraft series by Max Brooks that we wandered through. I also did not like those.
Is Max Brooks the one that wrote the zombie survival?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I read
Brooks'
that.
son.
Okay, yeah, I liked that one. We didn't get into the Minecraft ones. I think I have one of those though.
Yeah, Max Brooks' Minecraft series. I don't like it, but I also know that it is good. I'm capable of recognizing books I don't like are still good.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's Warrior Cats for me.
Right.
Wings of Fire, which again I tried, not for me, and that's. I mean, Wings of Fire.
I feel like Wings of Fire when we get there, because my girl child. Will, and this will be her shit. I'm just writing down recommendations for when she gets there. Yeah,
that's my middleist wanted to try Wings of Fire, and I was like, "You're not a dragon kid, but you can try it." And,
you can try it.
And she's like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Your sister likes the dragon books. You're different people. I get it, and I support you wanting to try something new." Like, yes, but I was like,
also,
I was waiting. Yeah. They didn't finish the book.
Yeah.
Because she likes Diary of a Wimpy Kid. We own every single Wimpy Kid book. I've never read them. I know all about them. I almost had to ban the cheese touch in our house because it is creating too much drama. But the cheese touch is a regular part of our house. We have Wimpy Kid board games. Okay, like Diary of a Wimpy Kid is Warrior Cats too. Like those are the big ones.
Was the movie approved? I know a lot of book fans hated the movie because they did it very wrong. Is what I heard. I don't know.
I think that the movie was okay. I didn't watch the movie. I don't watch a lot of movies. Jim watched the movie. He liked it. And I think the kids were okay with it, but it wasn't a rewatchability movie.
Yeah.
And the newest series, which we just got some more to add to it, is Nathan Hale's Hazardous Tales, which is a graphic novel history series.
Nice.
But it's kind of not just focused on the American Revolution. So there is a few. There is One Dead Spy, which is about Nathan Hale.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good one. And then Lafayette, which is about the Marquis de Lafayette.
Yeah.
There is one about the Louisiana Purchase. And these books are very good, but they are kind of hard. So like that book my kids struggled with because it was talking about yellow fever. And so these books are definitely that upper elementary and middle school age, because it doesn't shy away from true history in the way that it's, I mean, they were describing what happens
reading level
there.
is not so much the vocab we handle, but the subject matter we're ready for.
Yes. And so my kid has reread the Lafayette book and the One Dead Spy 50 times. Okay.
Yeah.
And I found this author on Instagram the other night because I'm like, I wonder if we have more coming in the series. He's working on another one. He is the author and illustrator of these. So takes him a bit, I suppose. But they are a really fun way to interact with history. And I got a couple more for my kiddo. because she does reread. She does reread a lot. And I was like, we're skipping some of these because there's one about the Donner Party, which, if you don't know, was during the Oregon Trail. They got a little off the trail, and then they, if you
I know that one.
Yeah. So I was like, this one is not for you. You will
No,
not be
yet.
reading this.
We're not here yet.
And so that's kind of how that works. But I mean, we have every Wimpy Kid book, and I find them. It's like an Easter egg hunt in my house because she'll just grab one and read it and just show me the art and just kind of set them down everywhere. So those ones are good. Junie B. Jones. Yeah. I loved that as a kid. My kids love it. And we kind of, as a family, just discussed Junie B. T. Like, can you believe that Junie B. did that?
Yeah. Junie B. was definitely around when I was a kid, but through no series of choices, like, I just didn't get into Junie B. Jones purely because I just never picked it up.
Yeah.
There were other more tempting things at the time. I don't have any problem with Junie B. Jones. I've since read them as an adult. I like them, but I missed it. One of the things I did share was Goosebumps. I read Goosebumps as a kid, and I shared that with Abby, and she liked them okay, but she was like, because I was like, oh, these are scary, because I remember them being scary. And she reads them, and now this is 23 years later, the level of what is scary and what is not scary has changed. And so she reads the first couple. I was like, these are the scariest ones. I remember being the most scared about these. I gave her the ones about the ventriloquist doll. And she was like, so, Mom, either I am broken or you don't know the difference between scary and campy. I was like, listen, kid. Yeah, they're really campy. So Goosebumps,
and you don't really
camp.
like scary, so it would make sense that you would like that. I loved scary stories to tell in the dark, which are like when you're a kid. Those stories are scary. I have not given that to my kids because my kids
the cover
don't
creeped
like
me
it.
out. I remember looking at that and going, no.
Yeah. That's. I think it's so fun when we do get to share the books with our kids because, like, Junie B. When I was a kid, I loved it, and now reading it to my kids, it's like, let's talk about why Junie B. shouldn't have made that decision.
Right.
And
that's the other thing. I think in all books, in kids lit, in YA, in adult fiction, I feel like a lot of times people will come down on this is a bad book because this character is just awful and makes terrible decisions.
How boring would books be if they were all like everything was just nice all the time?
There's a lot of discourse around certain
no more
fantasy
climax
genres.
in a story. No more.
Yeah.
There's no problem to solve.
Well, and we don't necessarily have to end up perfect people at the end of the book either. I'm okay with flawed characters remaining flawed, even stubbornly, like they've been shown they're incorrect and they're still like, no, I'm doubling, because that's how it works in real life.
And how great is it when you finish a book and you're in that book hangover, you can't start a new book yet because you're still so stuck on thinking about why didn't that character finally make a change?
Yeah.
And I think it's a really great way, and especially when you're reading with your kids, to have those conversations with them and really consider it. And a thing that I do, because you don't keep kids' books in your house, and I don't think you have a whole lot of the physical books in your house. I think I have 4 bookshelves upstairs, and then I have one in the downstairs. And I think I need another one. We have lots of books. And one of the things I like to do is find a new book for the kid based on what I know about them. And I'm like, I think we could find something cool for you. And I found this really fun series that we started reading, and it's called According to Humphrey. And it is a book series from the perspective of the class hamster. And it's so fun, and it's filled with like little puns and stuff. Like it's one that I enjoy reading. And I just feel like as a society, we need to like use our village by telling other parents the books that are not mind numbing.
Right. I have also been teaching my kids to read audiobooks. We discussed at the top of the episode, I read primarily through audio, but I also use physical and ebooks. However, my kids at least once or twice a week, and it completely depends on how awake I am. On the way to school, we will have a music day, a talking day, or a book day.
Okay.
And that's the ride to the school. And we decide that prior to, and I will fully admit, sometimes music days and book days are because mom is too tired to say nice things at the appropriate times. Mom is tired and will pop off.
Yeah,
And
we just listened to Hamilton on the ride to school.
yeah. So if mom's awake, and you know, emotionally in control, yeah, we can absolutely have a talking day. And it sounds like I never talk to my kids in the car. That is not true. But once or twice a week, we have a music day or a book day. And a book day is listening to classic kid lit. So we've listened to Alice in Wonderland. And they're not great at listening to audiobooks yet. They're 6. They're not supposed to be good at listening to audiobooks.
My first
but
audiobook
every once
was
in a while.
The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon that my dad took out, borrowed from the library on cassette. I was 8. It scarred me. It was a family road trip. We're listening to The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon.
Now, I have played certain parts of certain
Do
books.
you
Kind of depends on what I'm
know
reading.
about Epic? My kids found out about this through school, and I got a family membership because Epic is audiobooks, but they also have the pictures. And my
I got
kids
confused for a
love
sec because
Epic.
we have a giant charter school called Epic here in Oklahoma. I was like, does Tori know about Epic charters? That's weird.
I do now that you just told me, but no, it's an app that is audiobooks for kids, and we really love it.
I'm gonna have to look into it.
Yeah, so that could be a way to maybe bridge that gap so that they're reading because the text is there too, right? So they can see the pages on it, so they can read it while listening to it.
My husband Tandem reads a lot. In fact, he just discovered Tandem reading where he'll download the audiobook and follow along in the physical book. He can't do e-readers. His eyeballs do not enjoy e-readers, even if they've got the e-ink.
That's honestly, it's one of my least favorite ways to read a book is the ebooks because of the way it affects my eyes. But I still
can't
do
read
it
them on the phone, but I can read them. Bezos sucks, but I do have a Kindle. I can read them on the Kindle. I can't read them on my phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, he discovered Tandem, and it just hadn't occurred to him that he can listen to a book and read it at the same time. Because what would happen is he'd sit down to read a book, and I would make a sound of existence, and it would pull him out of the book. He wasn't mad at me for making a sound of existence.
Yeah.
But it would pull him out, and then he'd have to spend forever to like refocus and find where he was and get back down to the zone. But if he puts his headphones on and someone is reading the book and he's just following along with his eyeballs, he's doing audio reading and
I feel like that
eyeball
must
reading.
be so helpful for focus too.
Yeah.
So-
It's changed how he's reading.
I feel like real quick, okay, I feel like we should do a what are we currently reading?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pull up my StoryGraph.
That's literally what I'm doing. We both use StoryGraph, which is an app that graphs your reading habits.
It's great for data nerds. It is woman owned. It is Black woman owned. And she does it all by herself. She and her husband run this entire app. So
I
it's not
actually
owned.
didn't know anything about the owners.
Yeah.
That makes me even happier to be a user. Yeah, we love that.
And it's great for data nerds. It gives way more graphs and information than that other
I just love
Amazon-owned place.
supporting small businesses.
Yes.
So let's see. Well, okay. What are your top moods in your StoryGraph? Like
My top moods in my StoryGraph are, hold on, it's loading.
here, I'll read you what is in my moods for my StoryGraph, and they are like pie charts. So, reflective, emotional, informative, sad, inspiring, challenging, dark, hopeful, funny.
I have adventurous, mysterious, dark, funny, emotional, tense, lighthearted, and reflective.
So we
Make
have
sure you do.
opposite. We have opposite moods because I
Here we go.
am apparently reading all depressing books, and you're reading your romantasy.
I'm reading my romantasy.
And then it's like there's the pace, there's the page number, and this isn't an ad. To be clear, we're not like sponsored. We just
No, we're not at all. In fact, I would categorically refuse taking money from this woman.
Yeah, same.
I'm going to promote this app for free.
same. So okay, what is your fiction to nonfiction spread?
So right now it says 100%, but that is also because I haven't logged 3 of the nonfiction books that I read.
Yeah.
So right now it says 100% fiction, but that is not an accurate graph.
I'm
because
doing my graph of all time, not just recent. So
that would take I've been on StoryGraph longer than you.
That's
it would
true.
take a
That's
long
true.
time for me to.
So my spread,
down.
I've only been on it for like less than a year. So my
I've been on it
spread
since like day one.
is 71% nonfiction and 29% fiction. My genres, my top genres here.
It's kind of blurry.
It is blurry. Read them to
That's
me.
fantasy right up at the top.
Oh, I see it now. Fantasy, romance, historical. Yeah. Psychology, memoir, self-help, health, reference, and biography.
What titles are you? What are your actual current reads?
My current.
Our timer is going to go off here in just a
I
sec.
know. I gotta find it. Okay, my currently reading. Let's see. We have Crucible of War, the 7 Years War, and the fate of. I had to click on it so I could get the whole title. Crucible of War, the 7 Years War, and the fate of the Empire in British North America, 1754 to 1776. 17, yeah. So that one I'm reading currently. Rush, Revolution, Madness, and Benjamin Rush, the visionary doctor who became a founding father. Really enjoying that one. Adult children of emotionally immature parents.
No, hit the trauma button. Hit the trauma button.
Trauma dump.
Okay. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm sorry.
I think it's Frankel.
Okay. George Washington, A Life by Ron Chernow, same person who wrote the Alexander Hamilton biography. Adjustment Day.
So that is narrative nonfiction, and Ron Chernow does it really good.
Oh, so good.
It's really
I'm
good.
actually listening to that one. And then here's one fiction book.
Fiction?
Yeah, my brain just like glitched and was like, which one is it? One fiction book I'm reading. It is Adjustment Day by Chuck. I can't say his last name.
Palatchination.
He also wrote Fight
I did
Club.
it wrong.
I've read Fight Club. I've never watched the movie. I can't do it because I know the twist. Anyway, what are you reading? Yes, I am actually reading all of those things actively. Engaging with those books actively.
I am currently reading, and I've got one more that I just picked up in physical that I don't remember what it's called because I literally just got book mail. Because as an author, turns out a perk of being an author published with Mama Cuss's Field
TikTok
Guide to Responsive
sensation.
Parenting and not knowing when to stop with the fucking subtitles.
By Panic at the Disco.
But the perks of being an author is you end up with a lot more media mail where other companies will send you their books. So I got the latest Cara Bastone book, and I'm super excited to read that. It's cozy romance. But I'm also reading Legend Born by Tracy Dion, first book in the Legend Born cycle. And I have accidentally done this. One Woman's Army by Charity Adams Early, who was instrumental in the World War II post office. Her squad, her legion, her unit of almost exclusively Black and women of color absolutely made sure that all of the people serving in World War II got their fucking mail, and it kept morale up.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So
Yeah. We should share our lists of what we read and to be read, which might be incredibly long list. I know mine is.
I could not publish my TBR. My TBR is miles.
Say, okay, maybe we'll do a top 10 that we want to read.
Top 10
and I
TBRs.
think we'll post that in on our YouTube because I know how to use that.
Even make a bonus video.
That was our timer.
I'm going to finish the sentence. I'm going to make a bonus video of our TBRs and our 5-star reads. So if you want to see what Tori and I have truly, truly enjoyed over the course of our many years of reading, we will make a list of our 5-star reads and our upcoming TBRs, and that will be an exclusive video on YouTube, Childproof Podcast. So if you don't already subscribe to us, please go there. This doesn't require anything. We don't have to get to a certain subscriber level or anything. Just we will, when this episode drops, we will also the following day drop the next video of our reading books, and I'll make that video.
Yes. We could both make the video, and then because we know how to edit things together, we could make it look like we're in the same room, like we're doing right now.
All right.
But thank you for listening to Childproof, and we want to hear from you. This episode was all prompted by one of our listeners, by one of you, so thank you again. I had a lot of fun talking about books.
Yeah.
So email us, childproofmail@gmail.com.
Be sure to give us a follow on YouTube at Childproof Podcast, and leave a review everywhere else. They really, really help. We are available on Spotify, Apple, all the other places you listen to your favorite podcast. If we are not currently available on that place, please be sure to email us, and we will do our best to get that on there.
And to all of the friends who've been emailing that some of the sound levels are off between the intro and our talking, I'm working on it. I'm so sorry. I'm new at this, okay? I'm new. But also, while you are on YouTube following Childproof Podcast, give Gwenna a follow, Pleasant Peasant Media, and give me a follow, Tori Phantom. My first history video has premiered. I worked
All
really
those
hard
history
on
books
it.
that they've been reading have been leading to this series.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
I'm
It's absolutely amazing.
very excited for the next videos too.
They've been working on this for an incredibly long
I
time.
had to learn how to animate. Well, I didn't have to, but if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do too much. But anyway,
Remember, sometimes our kids are assholes.
and sometimes it's us, and sometimes it's Thomas Jefferson.
It's almost always people who make books make noise. That's pointless.
Well, yeah, why are
Books
they
are
making
quiet
noise? I just
activities.
want it
Damn
to
it.
be quiet, unless it's an audiobook.